so people are familiar. Um, we are going to move into what we hope will be a really interesting conversation with some members from our innovations pilots, together with Devanshi, who we mentioned earlier. But to give a little bit of background to this conversation, we want to start with kind of how we got to where we are today. Interestingly enough, here my remarks talk about the 2022 strategic transition, but actually I think we need to note that this goes back a little bit further. Many of the membership were involved with a series of pretty intense conversations that we had in the VSA during the pandemic, right? I think all of us were on more Zoom meetings than we care to remember. But the interesting thing that came out of those meetings was a desire for a focus, an intensified focus, shall we say, around issues of climate and equity in the built environment and how we as professionals could really make a difference. So in 2022, we engaged in a really deliberate exercise, and we made a strategic transition, which was designed to really position us as an organization to leverage our membership to make an increasingly positive impact on our environment here in the Greater Boston area. We should know that this is all in alignment with AIA mission and value statements that have also shifted over the last few years. So we're really kind of in this, we're in this with the rest of the profession and the design industry as a whole, right? We're not in this alone. So this led to, this 2022 repositioning led to a release of what we call the Request for Innovations, done last year, where we put out a very broad call to architects, community members, and anybody who's interested in making change to say, in response to the prompt, quote, how might we do architecture differently? We received 31 submissions, which was quite exciting, indicating lots of interest in kind of addressing this topic. And we selected 5 finalists. We hope some of you were at the open house that we had last year, where the 5 finalists presented their sort of programs and ideas. And this selection process was led, we should note, by a small group of GSA, AIA, and VSA Foundation board members, and it was quite rigorous. And at the moment, through over the course of the past year, we have worked with these 5 groups, and currently we have 3 specific groups that we're engaging in some focus on. And today we are really excited to have some team leaders from 2 of the groups here to talk about the work and its progress and where we are today and where we hope to go in the future. So I would like to introduce Devanshi Hurwitz, member of the VSA Foundation Board and principal at CT Architects, who is going to actually moderate this discussion.
Good morning, everyone. So I think I'm profoundly honored to be sharing the stage here and having this conversation with Shashi and Nalini and Mason. I don't know if you remember, we were here in the same space back in March and for an open house where we introduced the finalists and had a really great conversation. So I'm really happy to be back here in December and talking about some of the progress. So I'm going to quickly introduce our panelists today. So welcome, Shashi and Nalini. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. From Families for Justice and Healing. Families for Justice and Healing is a nonprofit founded and led by incarcerated women, formerly incarcerated women with incarcerated loved ones. So their mission is to end the incarceration of women and girls as they tirelessly advocate for end of building new jails and prisons and instead invest in our communities. And the BSA is working with the organization to explore how abolitionist principles can be shaped with environment and promote transformative justice. And Jason Lee here is the founder and principal of FMRA, a consultancy that partners with clients to design for equity in the civic realm in collaboration with Jared Johnson, who's not here today, but he's an executive director of Transit Matters, a nonprofit that is advocating for better public transportation and mobility throughout the Commonwealth. They're leading the Social Equity Framework Initiative to conduct a multi-year research and design project that documents and analyzes the examples of recently created frameworks, but also developed a free to use and adaptable templates that create social equity frameworks in various types of architecture, urban design projects, and providing policy recommendations for municipal, state, and federal actors to implement and advance their social, racial, and environmental justice goals. So it's a very big roster here. So welcome everyone. Do you want to just take a minute or two to talk about your work and your initiative? Just give a little bit of a recap on what you're at and how you came about collaborating with BSA.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Mallory again, and I'm very happy to be here. And just in terms of the background of our work, we were founded by Andrea James when she was in federal prison in Connecticut, and the women that she was incarcerated with. And she brought that work back to Roxbury and mentored several other institutions that continue the abolitionist work. She continues to lead the work at the national level along with the women that she was incarcerated with. We continue to have incarcerated and formerly incarcerated leadership. So some of our members are inside NCI Framingham, the oldest state prison for women in the United States, here in Massachusetts. And we do our work in 3 areas, which is policy and advocacy. Our policy work is focused on ways that we can stop women from going into jail and prison, and ways that we can maximize pathways to bring women and people home from jail and prison. We do we have a statewide campaign that has a long-term vision of bringing everyone home from MCI Framingham and closing it permanently without rebuilding or replacing it, so we can be has no state prison for women. And then I can pass to Sasha to talk about the heart of our work and how we came to be connected with the BSA, which is Reimagining Communities.
So I'm the Reimagining Communities Director, and Reimagining Communities is the infrastructure that we created for doing years of listening to like across the country to figure out what communities needed instead of prisons and jails. And so that's inclusive of participatory defense, transformative justice, people assembly process, economic development, and then within that is like project on the farm, basic income, basic housing, safe housing, mutual aid, healing stipends, and that community bridges, community pantry. And so those are all the things that women need to thrive so that way we don't cause further harm to people. And then also through transformative justice, figuring out how do we respond to harm done to us that doesn't cause more harm. So basically we're creating a community that doesn't include police, jail, or prison. And so that also includes starting a crisis response team because transgressions do happen in the community. So how do we respond to them, and how do we build people in the community to help each other support in response to those specific crises that do happen in the community, but also employ them so that way they can make a sustainable income, but also they're saving their own community. And then we have so many projects, which is super exciting. But how did we meet BSA? We have been actively fighting New Women's Prison. And for years, we've been reeling it 4 years now. We've been reeling the women's prison for 4 years. It's a $50 million women's project. And we believe that if we talk about building a new women's prison, we're not only talking about incarcerating the current generation, but we're talking about incarcerating the future generation. And so if we have a small number of women that is incarcerated in Massachusetts, under 800 women, under 700 now, under 700 women, we should be exploring alternatives. Like we should be exploring what does it look like to create community-led alternatives so that way women are exploring what it looks like. Because my mom spent time in prison, my dad did 12 years in prison, and prison never healed them, it never made them a bad person, it never stopped the transgression that my mom was in for, the transgression that my dad was in for. Those transgressions are still happening right now. And so how do we create a better world? And so BSA at the time was talking about maybe being in alignment with it, but we had explored what does it look like to talk to the architect and really shift the narrative and say, hey, we are people, this prison is going to impact communities like Roxbury, Dorchester, Madison, the most incarcerated quarter of the Commonwealth, which happens to be primarily Black and brown communities. So how can we create what it looks like and how can we partner? And so thank you to BSA and Rebecca. We had those conversations with the architects, and architects decided to go in a different avenue. And BSA has been so built to partner with us and collab so that way we can figure out what does it look like, create what does it look like, but also from a community standpoint, also bring community members to the architectural world to like explore what does it look like for community members to have access to even be thinking about being a designer or thinking about being an architect, because those are avenues that our community hasn't completely carved out. People just build stuff for us. It was never a part of that process. And so our vision and goal is to be a part of that process. So I'm asking because I'm going.
So our project looks like the framework actually sort of nests perfectly under the work that this group is doing in the sense that a social equity framework is a plan of action for any private or public architecture or urban design project that will have an impact on the civic sphere. And so the way the social equity framework fits underneath whatever concept or notion you have for civic value that a city holds, that a group holds, that a developer holds, that people hold. And so specifically, it's a plan of action to address social, racial, and environmental justice concerns of the community in which any development project is situated. The reason this came onto our radar at Ephemera is it's not typically what the work that we do organizational change management and culture work, we do strategic planning, we do community-based design projects, and we also do strategic initiatives. So people call us in and they're like, we want to do this thing, we don't know how to do it, we've got to bring all these stakeholders together, can you help us? That's the kind of stuff that we do. But so we were kind of invited in that context to work on Oregon's Museum of Science district plan with a couple of collaborating firms that are friends of ours in Portland. And they introduced us to this concept of social equity. I've never heard of this before 3 years ago. Sorry, you're not here, I apologize. And so we started to do research on this project. We did a ton of precedent research with them. And we realized in conversation with some of our colleagues here and in other cities as well, that this is a new and kind of burgeoning way of thinking about things that architects and urban planners have been thinking about for a long, long time. We've all been required through various projects to contribute to an affordable housing fund or do some improvements to public space or to provide some kind of low rent lease space for 501c3s within any development project. This kind of thing all constitutes parts of what we define as civic value, and a social equity framework just goes one step further in sort of mandating that the design team and the ownership team really go out and engage the community to understand what their needs and pain points are, and then to try to incorporate design solutions into both the physical space, but also any services and funding and programs that they will contribute back to the community. So Jared and I, who are collaborating on this project, we're super excited to interview as well as a number of friends and collaborators around the Boston area and more broadly around the US and Canada. There aren't a lot of these projects, so we need to start to build a database to understand what the toolkits and what the strategies are, what specific programs and how they structure their interactions and everything, and then also in addition to that, start to think about what the policy recommendations would be, because we know, for example, that the City of Boston BPDA is really zeroing in on some of these issues as well, and so we want to be able to contribute some of the information on it.
Thank you. That's great. So can you both speak a little bit more about, how can architecture as a profession or design profession really contribute to the initiatives that you're working on and, a role that architects can play in trying to push some of the goals that you have?
First and foremost, we invite you to join us in making a commitment to not causing further harm by designing or constructing jails or prisons. And we hope to not just say, don't do this, but also an invitation to do what Sasha's talking about, which is build with us, right? What can we create together that's actually life sustaining, and that contributes to really addressing what the root causes of harm are, and allowing communities to thrive. So that is something, those principles is, and being in that shared commitment is so important. And, you know, it's also been really painful to try to confront companies that have been hired. HDR has this contract to study and design wins for them, and so we've been completely, we've been outside of their offices, we have sent letters, we have made phone calls repeatedly, we have tried to galvanize hundreds of other people to make phone calls, and just to not be listened to and totally silenced as sort of an unworthy group of people to even hear from is been very impressive to be frank and transparent. And also the women inside the prison who are our members talked about seeing a small isolated group of women, if they even knew them, who ever spoke to anyone about the project, and then the way that their voices were represented was totally minimized in terms of what they were expressing about their concerns. So hearing from people and listening and being in community looks really different than what we're seeing happening right now. And also the time and energy that it's taken to sort of confront this project, like Sashi mentioned, 4 years. And thanks to some of our partners and architects that are acting in community, they have helped us get some information, but otherwise it has been directly affected women teaching ourselves how the RFP system works, do public records requests to try to get any information about what's happening with our public dollars and to our family members, right? And so just the lack of transparency and accountability and how that's all sort of been sheltered, it's taken so much organizing energy and effort that could be generative and transformative and about building something different, but it's been about defense and trying to get information that should belong to the public. So that has been exhausting and really draining, and we really hope that we can use 4 years of energy, in the future. That's why we're asking for a jail and prison construction moratorium to have this official pause so that we can focus on what else is possible. And I think that also goes towards also I'm trying to navigate like on the other side of things, like, okay, what would it look like for us to be able to take over an empty lot in our own neighborhood where we work and trying to fill out the RFP for getting land is like I'm sure many of you have navigated that. It is a very overwhelming and difficult process. And so even partnering and helping us go through the mechanics of like getting the resources that are actually in our own community. Like we can see it from our office, we can see the lot from the hydroponic farm where we wanted to put the hydroponic farm. So those things, and I know there's some more, but people have such incredible ideas. And we need partners to bring them like out of our minds and off of the paper and into real space so we can start to see and experiment and try things that can be really healing and transformative.
I think Valerie pretty much covered a lot of it. But I did want to just uplift, that when you're not in the world or you aren't directly impacted or you don't, which I think everyone's directly impacted, but if you don't have someone directly affected, you kind of get carved out of that world. So it's like you just kind of like listen to what the narrative is. And so for a long time, the narrative was, which they were using to work in Framingham, is that because Framingham is one of the oldest, one of the prison, it was built the same year as Wellesley College and has had zero renovations to it. They wanted to go with the narrative that women need to make go to prison because of the conditions. And so that would be, if I was the architect who had no understanding of how harmful building a women's prison is, I would think that I was doing the right thing by building a women's prison. But this is why you have to listen to formally incarcerated people, because when we mobilize the women that were currently in Framingham right now, like this, women who they said is never coming home, although we're pushing for clemency. And one of our staff people, they said she was never coming home, and now she's one of our staff people. But when we listen to those women speak at the hearing to support the prison jail moratorium, not one of those women said they needed a new woman's prison. And so you have to really listen to what is the real narrative, not what's the narrative that DOC wants to push, because they're going to benefit off of the new woman's prison, but what's the narrative of the people. And so that's why it's important to really connect with the people that are on the ground that really are connected to the solution, because we're the ones that's closest to when we talk about building a new women's prison. Because my daughter is going to be impacted by that, or maybe I'll be impacted by that, but who knows? But we're just trying to create a better future. And you already know that The prison system, look at how far we've come and we've gotten over. We've only caused further harm and now it's trickling down, impacting more people, more people, more people. And we're not getting anywhere. We're not healing anybody. We're not helping anybody. The people who have caused harm, the people who have had harm caused to them, they have no healing. Nobody goes back and says, hey, you lost a loved one. Are you okay? Do you need anything? And so that's why we have to explore creating what it looks like. And so I'm really excited because have been like, us laughing around and talking about those RFPs, because we were really trying to fill out RFPs. And then we were like, wait, those are not even the normal Google bands. So we were like spending hours on reading like this booklet RFPs. And so this is why it's important for us to be in partnership because we have a vision. We just completed our it's my toddler has only birth. So we just completed our first cohort of CDL, group. We sponsored community members or supported community members to get their CDL partner. And one of the first things that they experienced was like the extreme racism that they had to deal with at partner because it was just such a hard experience with them. I didn't go through it, so but I can relate. But they were the first Black first Black only incarcerated class who all graduated from partners. And so that was kind of unheard of. But we're exploring what does it look like for us to have a land so that we can have a DDL school right in the community so that we can start to create economical stability for other people, for not only 7 people, but 700 people, 7 million people, whatever, the whole roster can have access. And so those are just the smaller projects and opportunities that architects can, really come to us. And I know that architects have to make money. And so we're not saying it's the reality. You have to make money. That's why a lot of architects pick up on projects because they want to make money. But we want to spend money too. We want to spend money.
We're trying to give you $50 million capital dollars.
Yeah.
It's not for the person.
So when we're advocating for the when we're advocating for the physical job moratorium, we're also putting pressure on government saying that same $50 million that you wanted to spend on that physical job, give it to the communities that would have been impacted and let us make it from there so we can build and create what they're going to look like in our community. So we want y'all to get money because money is the so sorry. But I'll pass it.
I just want to amplify it again. I mean, I just, as an architect, a member of the AI and all that stuff, we edify what we value. We build representation for our values. So another way of putting it in a more maybe stark way is that we are edifying systems of power and control through every decision we make in terms of urban space, architecture, everything. And so the importance of the designer in the context of this kind of work is that we have an opportunity through how we build and what we choose to build to impact the lives of everyone and to, in a way, change their values that we hold. So it's a very, very important role that we play and to be able to shape the civic space and to express the values of the community. And I think we need to take that a little bit more seriously sometimes. But I also think there are a lot of people doing really excellent work here and elsewhere that we could learn from, and that's what we're
In interest of time, I want to open it up to the audience if they have questions. I have one last question, but I just wanted to give everyone an opportunity their questions. There are any on Zoom? Let's see. 916. No. Any questions here? Okay, so maybe I'll just add one more question. So what is it that the BSA membership and the community at large can do? Are there immediate steps or long-term steps that you're looking at? And are there any petitions to sign? Are there any, I know you're doing some surveys right now, so how can, BSA membership can participate and contribute and support the projects?
Yeah, it's pretty straightforward. We want to talk to you. If you're doing work that has a large component of civic value or about social environmental or racial justice, we want to talk to you. We want to talk about what made it easy, what made it hard, where the barriers are. Is it policy? Is it funding? Is it ownership? We just want to hear more about it. In addition to that, we will be assembling at some point a cohort to sort of think about designing the template that will include members of the community, different community organizations, but also include design professionals who can help us do a lot of the translation work to understand, why is the street dimension the way it's dimensioned, for example, and then talk about that with respect to these issues of justice. So, and then of course there's funding. We've got seed funding from the BSA, but obviously this is intended to be at least a 2-year project. And in this initial several months with BSA funding, we're going to be interviewing just 10 people to get to sort of refine our interview protocol and to uncover more people within the network that we need to speak to. And then we want to expand it beyond that group, as well as to involve our collaborators on the West Coast to get them doing the same process over there so that we can build this database.
If you are willing to lend your name or your firm's name or your community's name or organization's name to support the jail and prison construction moratorium, directly impacted women got it to Governor Baker's desk in the first session that was filed, which is historic if you know anything about the pace of the Massachusetts legislature, which is the slowest in the country. So unfortunately he vetoed it, but we're trying to get it passed again and again. This is about this pause to stop the resources and to create the space to make and build something different. So we love your support with that. And then also as a pitch for our project, we are going to also be building a cohort to really be building on what the AIA said is like change the professional code of ethics, right? To make a commitment to no longer construct spaces of torture, which is solitary confinement or execution space. And we think that we can do better than that and actually think about what principles look like about not just what not to do, but also what to do and how to be in community. So this cohort is going to be a collection of designers, architects, students, and directly impacted people learning together about the history of incarceration and the future of community-led infrastructure. So we hope that you will want to be part of that. And also, yes, supporting the cohort that we're creating, but also if you want to have some food here, we are trying to raise $1.5 million to build a training center for formerly incarcerated women, so that with all the work that we've been doing over the years, we have a beautiful blueprint through Family Suggested Healing. And because we have all of these blueprints that we created, we know that systems across the country are also fighting the same project and we've seen the same problems with the situations on Native and Brady. And so instead of them spending all their resources to recreate what we've been creating here, we're using our resources to share with women across the country to reimagine communities. And so we're working to build a training center, and we do take donations for the training center, but we prefer to buy a t-shirt, free her t-shirt, on freeherinstitute.com. And all those proceeds go towards the $1.5 million that it takes to build the training center. And also the cool part is the training center is going to be on Martha's Vineyard in Oak Bluff because we inherited the land here. And so how cool is that going to be to have this training center in Oak Bluff on Martha's Vineyard? So buy a t-shirt, a great conversation started, and everyone wants to be able to. Because the Baba is the founder of both organizations, Andrea James, and she only did that before I was like, not a t-shirt.
So, if anyone wants to get involved, Jenny is gonna be the point person. Reach out to Jenny and the, in any, neither of these, two initiatives or any other initiatives with the innovation, practice. So, thank you so much. This was a great way to spend our morning, and we are very inspired and charged. And a huge thank you to BSA for pushing this work. And I know there's been a lot of background work that is not seen here, but I know that there's a tremendous amount of both effort and energy and momentum that's pushing and excited about it, and everyone have a great holiday.